Okay, my name is, I was baptized Delores Marie Sophia Franke, and I've been a member here of Bethlehem since beginning of time, and my birthday was January the 10th, 1931.
I'm Ralph Bauermeister. I've been a member of Bethlehem Lutheran Church all my life. I was born in 1933 and was baptized shortly after that, and been a member ever since.
Okay. And Hildegarde, you were baptized at Soest?
I was baptized at Soest Lutheran Church, yes.
Okay.
And had only two other people in my class.
I'm Doyle Werling, and I've been a member for 82 years plus.
Okay.
Norman Bauermeister, been a full-time member of Bethlehem all my life. And how many years it's been, I just don't know right now.
You?
My name's Norman Bauermeister, and I've been a lifelong member of Bethlehem. And as of right now, I'm 83 years old. And I'm going to turn 84 in August. So,
And you're twins?
yeah,
Right.
we're twins.
I was baptized in January the 18th, 1931. I was born at home, and it's the farm, what was Fred Graff's, that was not too far from the church, and that's where I was baptized too. It was cold, and 5 days later, or 8 days later, they baptized me.
I was born in 40, and in 47 we moved over here to where Troy lives now, and that was a little more modern, and that's but we still had we had electricity and water going into the house, but there wasn't no toilet inside yet. But Dad had that installed there pretty soon, after that, and we had a bathroom was upstairs, and of course he had the old furnace, but upstairs wasn't heated, except for the bathroom. And I remember a cold day, that'd be the place to go. You get up or change clothes maybe. And I was 7 when we moved over here, and that's when Sister Jean was born, and everything is downhill since then, Jean. And Dad always called her the caboose. And yeah.
My dad bought the farm in 1930. That was the Depression time. And I remember he said, he didn't pay anything. He couldn't pay anything on the principal of it for 5 years, but he was able to pay his taxes, so he was able to hold the farm. But a lot of people lost their farms those days even. Now some of the members in our church, they had been there, the ancestors had been here earlier. And some of them, the government would give them land instead of money. And so that's how they kind of accumulated land. I know that was with the Werlings, because Wayne Werling told me that one time, Yeah, so.
So what do you like about living out in the country?
Everything. Of course, we're not too far from the big town Toxin here, but we just, like an evening, we sit out in the gazebo if it's a nice night, just listen to the birds and watch the semis go by. And but we just, neither one of us would like it. Well, she was born in the country too, or raised in the country, and I guess that's just the way we'd like it, as long as we can be that way.
Well, at our house, electricity came into, like when I was 10. Oh, my goodness. We didn't have a basement. Mom would keep her butter in cold water. Your well water is really cold. Electricity was wonderful when we could get a refrigerator. We did have an ice box then for quite a few years. That helped before that. But I think Mom really enjoyed the washing machine. You know, when they used to have to wash by hand or pull that stick to make that thing go. I mean, you talk about hard work. That was hard work those days. So, and then our house at home, mine, we didn't remodel to have a bathroom until I was a junior in high school.
Well, we didn't live very far from school, so we normally walked to school. But Walter Werling was a school bus driver. But every once in a while, we got out of school, we'd get on his bus, and we'd ride around to the little burg of Echo. A lot of people remember Echo. And Walter would let us get off the school bus and get us an ice cream cone. And then we'd get back on the bus and come home.
I remember getting to go with Dad to Echo maybe one night a week. And the guys down there, you know, and I think a soccer shear and some of them old guys down there. And I guess they'd go down there to get away from their wives and the kids, you know.
They had a grocery at Echo and a filling station at Echo. And then they had one at Magley, had a grocery store there. And when Echo closed, I can remember Dad and Mom talking about how far they had to go to Ossian now. Because you just didn't go to Ossian.
The only thing I remember about Echo is riding the school bus over there getting ice cream cone.
And when the old Toxin lumber yard was going, that was quite a thing. You know, they had the double railroad track come through there, and they'd switch trains there. And when I was younger, you know, we had the old steam engines. That was neat to watch. And sometime when they'd take off, you know, their wheels would spin, and that was, of course, that wasn't far for me to go with the bicycle, get down there.
Now, one thing I can tell you about this church is sitting talking with my dad helped build the church that we tore down. And I can still remember him talking to me and telling me in the wintertime that church came to Toxin, Indiana on railroad cars. And then all the members in the wintertime would go over there with horses and wagons, and they hauled all that material to the building site in the wintertime. So when it comes spring, they had everything there to start building that church.
Yeah, I remember a lot about the old brick church. That had 2 aisles and then three sections seating. And when I can just barely remember, the ladies would sit on the right and the men on the left, and us kids would sit in the middle up the front. And that wasn't good. Boys were boys then too. So.
Yeah, well, of course we still have the same altar now, and the side windows, those big windows. At night we had a night services. You know, then they just look dark, and you know, but when the sun is on, that was beautiful. And
Well, it had tall ceilings, very tall ceilings, and I don't know how many people it would really seat. It had a balcony in the back, and that's where the organ was upstairs in the balcony. And then the choir also used the balcony on Sundays. And other than that, just a basic church.
Yes, I spoke German. I mean, we were German at that time, and quite a few people were German at that time. And so when I started first grade, I couldn't even speak English. But I do not remember that it was really that much of a hardship. I think children learn quite quickly. And so I had 3 years of German where I learned the catechism and things like that. And then I didn't have to take German anymore. Most of the kids that had taken German were out of the school then, and so my dad said he wasn't going to make anyone give me German anymore.
Yes, they worshipped in German until about sometime in the 40s when the World War II broke out. And and then they stopped the German. I don't remember exactly which year, but I remember the German. But I could understand German, but I couldn't speak it.
Mhm.
Well, I can remember my prayer that I said for, when I'd go to bed at night. Mede bin ich geht zur Ruhe, schließe meine Auglein zu, Vater, lass die Augen dein, even meinen Bette sein. And I taught my two grandkids, McKenna and Grant, that. I thought they needed a little German or something. They probably don't remember it yet, but
That was just Mom and Dad whenever they didn't want us to know what they was talking about. That was pretty much it. But they still had, I think they still had a German service maybe once a month maybe at church too.
Because your
maybe
parents still spoke to each other fluently in German sometimes?
Well, they probably could, but just enough, if they didn't want us to know what they was talking about.
I can barely remember that, but in my younger years, I don't remember the German service, but I think we had a German service when I was just a little tot. But I don't remember going to them though. Because I think the way it was, we had a German service and English service both,
a big change that came into our church was in the early 40s. That would have been about 1940, maybe, when Pastor Keck came, when we called him, and that was after Pastor Strasberg. He was the German minister, really. And then we had called Pastor Keck. And that was probably a good thing. That was a change in our church. And it did change to more English, I guess. And at that time, then I started going to Sunday school. We started having Sunday school and things like that, yes.
One of my first fond memories of Bethlehem is my dad was janitor at the old church. My dad's name was Otto Bauermeister. And when I was a little youngster, that church had to be fired with a boiler. So on Saturday night after we'd have our evening meal, my dad and I, we would go down to church, build a fire, sit there for probably 2 hours till it got warm in church. And then he would bank that fire so it would burn all night. Then we would go home after probably about 2 hours or so. And then he'd get up early Sunday morning, go back down, fire up the boiler so it would be warm in church at 8 o'clock in the morning when the service started. That's one of my first fond memories of Bethlehem.
That's pretty good. You have anything to share like that?
No, it's about the same thing. I can just remember what he said, that my dad was a janitor. I think he took care of the church too, and mostly made sure in the wintertime that the church was warm.
Okay.
So
We had beautiful stained glass windows. I still miss those. I do. It was a nice church, and it was a beautiful church. But they really, my dad was even on the committee to remodel it. And it was hard to remodel. There was no bathrooms or anything, and to try to make it bigger. And so finally, the cost was as much almost as to build new, and that's when it was decided to build a new church. But it was a beautiful church, and I'll always remember Esther Werling and I forget, Dee Anderson. They decorated these big windows on the sides and that at Christmas time. It was beautiful. And as a child, I remember we'd have one great big Christmas tree in there. And there was no electricity at that time. The electricity didn't come through our country here, REMC, until I was about 10 years old. That would have been in about 1941. And so before that then, this Christmas tree, they would put candles on there. And they would light those Christmas Eve. Can you imagine how dangerous that was? But somebody would have a bucket of water with a sponge and a long stick in case something caught on fire, you know. But, yeah, they would light those.
As far as I can remember, they always had an organ in the old church that I can remember. It was upstairs.
I can remember being a hand pump organ in the church.
Okay.
And then they used to have, I don't know how they picked, but somebody had to pump the organ. And then they got that electronic organ that they had until, until we got this pipe organ, I guess. Yeah.
My dad said when they had built that church, the brick church, Uncle Mart, that'd be his older brother, helped in, you know. And here when they took the steeple thing down, and here they found a board in there that Martin had wrote his name on that. And he was probably a teenager then, and that was something.
I was there when they were taking down the old church. I mean, you know, it was sad because the church was not in bad shape. And I particularly loved the steeple. I mean, I still miss the steeple, and I miss the windows that we had, you know. But yet we were happy with the new church. And with people getting older and people needing wheelchairs and people needing, you know, we're all on one floor. And it's really an asset to have a church like that. It really is.
Well, I think one reason they tore the old church down was because it was so hard to heat it. Keep heat in it in the wintertime, and then summertime there was no air conditioning, and it had a basement under it which wasn't very functional. I mean, that's where the boiler to heat the building was. I mean, they used the basement for certain things, but not too much. It wasn't that functional.
Another thing, I think it was handicap. It had probably 8 risers going up from the ground to the doors. You see that in a lot of your churches yet. And that was one reason at that time they were talking about having to put the handicap rails to it. And that sort of dropped it when they decided to build the new church.
And there was no restrooms in that church either. They had to go outside and go clear over to the school to use the restroom facilities. So
I think at one time there was outside restrooms before the school was built too.
Probably, I don't know what the capacity was with that. And wasn't much of a basement underneath it. We really didn't have no place for meetings or anything. The basement was only about 6 foot tall, and then had the boilers down there, and they kind of made a little room there for kitchen and stuff, but it wasn't too good. But so we was needing new facilities, modernized things.
Well, as I grew older, I went to Bethlehem Lutheran School. That was in 1937. My first grade teacher was Teacher Worsom. It was great. I was bashful. I didn't like school at first, but it was fine, you know.
I started my first grade at Bethlehem, I think, back in 1944. And my teacher was Teacher Stoppenhagen. And I'm not real sure, but I think he was my teacher until I was about in the 3rd or 4th grade. And all I can remember, he passed away for some reason, but I'm not sure why. And then Teacher Reisenbeckler came. And then he was my teacher for the rest of my years at Bethlehem.
When I started there, we had Teacher Stoppenhagen. I suppose Delores mentioned him. Mm-hmm. And I think it was the 6th grade then when Reismaker came, and boy, that was as kids, we was all excited because he was so young, you know. We had Mr. Staubenhagen before. Well, I can't think what his first name was. You heard of him before, but
I think it was Fred.
Fred, yeah.
A different Fred style.
Different Fred, yeah. But Teacher Reismaker, well, he was probably maybe, I don't know if he was even 30 when he came, but, and he coached basketball and stuff. He was, you know, we wasn't used to that. He was a nice fella. And quite a change for us.
I attended the Bethlehem school all 8 years, and the first 4 years we had a different student teacher every year. And then I think it was when I was in 4th grade they called the permanent teacher, Teacher Siemens, I think was his name. And then he still taught all 8 grades, but at least he was permanent. And we all had jobs to do at school. We had recess in the morning, we had recess in the afternoon, of course noon. We all carried our lunch. The water pump was outside. You'd go out to get your drink. It had a common cup out there everybody could drink out of. And toilets were outside. And then to clean the school, I know at the recess, second recess in the afternoon, you were designated to help clean the floors and mop the floors, whatever had to be done. Different days you'd have to help, so we'd help clean up. Somebody'd have to carry coal in, carry wood in for the next day, get ready. But,
Did you go to school with Delores Scheumann?
she was 2 years older than I am.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to school together. Yeah.
Who were some of your other classmates?
Well, Richard Rockaway and Wilbur Meyer, because he's deceased. Richard's still living. And then Arlene Bauermeister, that was Glenn's sister.
Were there any Woodies?
She lives in someplace in Illinois. And Gloria Schuler and Kim Anderson, or Dee Anderson, I mean. And Arlene Meyer, she passed away, got in an automobile accident when she was young. But otherwise, there's still 4 of us living out of the confirmation class.
Okay, in my class it was Orville Werling, and that is Glenn Werling's dad. Delbert Bauermeister, and he lived up there where Otto Bauermeisters used to live. And he is a brother of Butch and Norvie Bauermeister. And then Iverna Werling, and she married Burns. She's gone. She just recently died. So, yeah, they're all gone, so out of my class, right.
Eleanor Schuler, Wanda Werling. I think Rosalie Franke was in my class.
Terry Gronow, I remember him.
Now, yeah. Valeria Deppner.
Right. I'm thinking there was 7 of us, or 8, in our class.
Well, my classmate was Alan Graft and Bob Detmer, Amos Werling, Shirley Graft, Margie Sheeler, Barbara Schuler. I think that was it, I believe. Yeah.
Well, goodness, we probably started pretty much like they do nowadays with a prayer. We were all, I went to school in that white building, and that had been the original church. And as we gathered in there, it would be all 8 grades would be in that one schoolhouse. And so I guess you kind of learn from the other kids. And I was looking at some pictures, and some of these teachers had maybe 50 kids, that we had at that time. So, I don't know, we all learned.
So I think Ralph mentioned that you started with religion class each day. That's what he remembered.
Oh, I'm sure we did. And then we had our other, reading. And I remember the one time, the one teacher would have us come up to his desk, and we'd gather around for reading or whatever, and stuff. They each had their different things. And each year, at that time, we would have a different teacher every year. And I remember it was sad because I would like my teacher, and I knew that when the end of the school year was, that was the end of it. Because the next year, we would just have a contact teacher, I guess. And they were students, really. And except it was Mr. Seamers. He was the first called teacher that we had. And I was in the, 6th grade then, yes.
First thing every morning was religion was very important. That was the first class we had. Then I don't remember what was next. I mean, how it was organized, but I guess I always kind of liked geography. They taught geography at that time. I liked that.
On that school, in my time, they put a basement under it. And that made a playroom down there. That's where the furnace was. And the confirmation room was down there. But they jacked that school up and put new walls under it. But what year it would have been, I don't know. But they took the wood frame school and put a basement under it. And that made a nice playroom for all the kids.
I got in the old school, we had the furnace room down below. And I think one time probably first, second grade, I kissed Barbara Schuler down there. And there might have been some more of that going on. We stuck down there.
Who knows? Who knows?
She's not, bless her heart, but she's gone now. But yeah, I really don't remember too much else. That was probably the highlight of it.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I was a bus driver for 22 years. I picked up, I had my route was Northern Wells Elementary School. And then after I would pick up these kids, I was kind of in that area, out there by Adams County and Allen County and the edges there. And then I would go to Church-Ossian. And then the other buses would also have kids that they had picked up. And then I was the shuttle then to Bethlehem. Yeah. After I'd been a bus driver for, I started in 1974. Few guys, it was Butch Werling and Paul Baumeister. They got me into driving bus. Hank said, no, you're not doing that. And so finally, I did. Paul showed me how to drive a bus. I mean, it was different then. We didn't have to go learn everything underneath the bus like they do nowadays, But anyway, it was interesting. I liked it. But there's some challenges. And then, I started in 74, about 76 maybe. I'm not for sure about that. That's when we had the wreck over there at the Shopper Corner. This car didn't stop for the stop sign, and it was fall, September. There was corn on both sides. I couldn't see this car coming, and I hit him. I can remember, and we weren't going all that fast, but anyway, this car flew up in front. At least I could see it, landed in the ditch there, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't keep that bus on the road. But here I went in the ditch, and we went one way, and then we went the other way, and then we upset on our left-hand side. And I thought, and as this was happening, I said a prayer. I said, Lord, don't let anybody have their arms out this window. I knew there was a couple windows were open.
Then when they upset that bus there at the Shopper's Corner there, that was kind of an exciting night. We thought Trudy was on there, and I'll never forget that. I was on the barnyard, and Arnie Sheeler drove by in a big hurry. Hey, he says, they had a bus accident, and some kids are hurt. And boy, I buzzed over there. I said, well, Trudy's on that bus.
Well, we sort of course, our kids were on it, but then we didn't. I know we drove down there and seen it laying there, but otherwise, don't really remember much about that. But it was just a good deal. Nobody got really bad hurt, I guess.
And I got over there and I couldn't find Trudy. And I happened to think she had piano lessons that night, and Hildegarde had picked her up at school.
A few had broken collar, maybe a wrist was broken, and my son Brian, he had a concussion. And anyway, that was scary. And so that happened on a Thursday. Then they hauled us up to Bluffton, to the it was a clinic there. And all the way, when I was in that ambulance, this guy kept saying, moaning, how can I ever pay for a big yellow school bus? How can I ever pay for a big yellow school bus? I said, just thank God nobody got killed. So I think he had to pay about $5,000 was his fine at that time. That's what I heard. And then that happened on a Thursday. Friday I didn't drive, thank goodness. Saturday I get a call from McBride, the superintendent, and he said, we have a bus for you for Monday morning. And I said, oh, Mr. McBride, do you think I'm ready? Don't you think I need a little time to get over this? No, I don't. Well, he had come out there to the thing, and I said, if I thought this was any of my fault, you'd never see me step inside a bus again. I said, if I would have stopped and looked, this wouldn't have happened. He said, but you can't stop at every stop sign that you're coming when you don't have the stop sign, He said, that would be dangerous. So I went, and I remember that day, it was a stormy day, and they were predicting tornadoes and stuff, and I thought, this is all I need today, is have a tornado come, because we were taught, we were to kind of know where in our route was a ditch deep enough to have those kids laying in those ditches. Well, there weren't that many ditches around like that, So, anyway, I kept going, and I didn't quit. Sorry, it's all right.
We didn't get to go to school in the new building. I think it was built right after we graduated in '52. It was sometime between 52 and 55, but I was thinking it was started in '52, but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
The two buckeye trees in front of the church, in front of the school, I was kind of glad when they kept those, and I was really surprised, because I really think, and I said to Ralph Baumeister, am I right in thinking those trees are the same trees that were there when I went to school? And he said, yeah. So they're old. They were right there, and that's where in between the two trees was where the sidewalk went into the school.
Yeah, I don't remember what.
The only thing I can remember, our recesses was all outside. Played basketball out on asphalt. We just had one goal to shoot at. It was completely different than what they have now. But we always went outside. There was a diamond where the cemetery was to the north. And that's where the filtration system's setting right now. But that was our ball diamond.
We used to have an hour recess, have an hour lunch period. A lot of those teachers would go home for lunch. And so us kids, we could do what we wanted to, more or less. And I remember that's where I learned to roller skate. Oh my goodness, we had so much fun because we had all these sidewalks around the church and lead to the school then, where a lot of us at home, we didn't have that nice of sidewalks, but that was fun.
First, it's at the old school. I think they had the old the outhouses out there, and we play handy over that, You probably heard that before too, Handy over.
But you know, one thing I noticed, I have to laugh sometimes. Kids, even in school, they're running to the restroom a lot, I think. When we were young, you didn't do that. I mean, it was cold out there, and you didn't spend much time in those places. And so, anyway, yeah.
I had two girls go through the school, so when they were in school, I was on the school board for a few years. But my main thing at Bethlehem, for some reason, I was always a trustee. And I think when I got my first election as trustee, I was trustee the rest of my life, which I enjoyed. You know.
And you?
Well, that's the same thing. I know I had trustee for quite a few years, probably 10, 12 years at least, or better. I enjoyed it. So,
Well, I've served on just about every office except I was never an elder. But I've been, I was treasurer, I was trustee many times. I wasn't a secretary, never a secretary, but like I said, treasurer and chairman one time, and about all the offices. But
And then, of course, I'm on the cemetery committee now too. And they always said you just about have to die to get off. That's what Pastor Wergow asked me. How long you on that till you die? And yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think our church, we have a good seminary. I think they study the Bible very thoroughly. I think what we believe is what is true and correct. I really do. I mean, there's many religions out there, and there's many Christians out there, but I feel Lutheranism, we are teaching what the Bible says.
Just keep the faith, I guess, and we have a lot of new little kids coming up in our congregation, which is a good thing, and try to make them keep the noise down back there. But yeah, I hope our church stays strong, and this society we have nowadays, it's a little tougher to, keep the churches strong maybe, and so much else stuff going on. Yeah, that's all I can say, I guess.
And I pray that the congregation goes another 125 years and that the school keeps operating for our young people, and that it never leave it down, keep supporting it.